Hello everyone and welcome back to Dr. Phuong Official. Today we're going to talk about a topic that affects everyone at some point in their lives, but isn't always openly discussed: how our sex drive or libido changes as we get older. It's a natural part of life, but understanding these changes can help us navigate them and maintain a healthy perspective. The information I'll be sharing today comes from reliable health resources. Specifically, a detailed article on Very Well Health will explore how libido typically shifts from our teenage years the way into our later decades, look at some of the reasons behind these changes, and discuss some things you can do if you're concerned about your sex drive. Before we dive in, it's very important to remember that the information presented here is for informational and, to educational purposes only. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Alright, let's get started. So what exactly is sex drive or libido? Basically, it's our personal desire for sex. What's interesting is that there's no single normal when it comes to libido. It exists on a spectrum, and what feels normal for one person can be very different for someone else, even at the same age and background. It's also worth noting that when we talk about sex drive in research, the terms sex and gender are sometimes used interchangeably, but they refer to different things. Sex refers to biological factors like chromosomes and hormones, typically assigned male or female at birth. Gender is a person's internal sense of self. The information I'm sharing reflects the terminology used in the source material, often using terms like male, female, man and woman as they appear there. Now let's look at how things change as we age. Sex drive often begins during puberty. This is when hormones like testosterone and estrogen really start to affect the body. These hormonal changes can bring about thoughts about sex, sometimes even before someone feels ready for courtship. Sexual activity itself. Data from the CDC suggests that, by age 18, an estimated 55% of US teens have had sexual intercourse. Among 15 to 19-year-olds, about 44% of males and 42% of females have had sex. Moving into our 20s, testosterone levels are generally high for everyone, regardless of biological sex. Research indicates that for males, the testosterone-driven sexual peak is often reported around age 22. There's a slow decline after this, but levels usually remain high enough to support a healthy libido. For females in their 20s, things can be a bit more varied. Fertility starts to decline in the late 20s, but surprisingly, sexual desire might actually increase. However, some experts don't fully understand exactly why this happens. On the flip side, many females report lower sex drive in their 20s. This is often linked to factors like using hormonal birth control or taking medication for depression, such as SSRIs. Research on how hormonal birth control affects libido is actually mixed. Pregnancy can also cause big hormone fluctuations that impact sex drive. Typically, it decreases in the first trimester, increases in the second, and decreases again in the third. As we enter our 30s, testosterone continues its decline. This drop in libido can become more noticeable for males. It might even coincide with the emergence of new health conditions like diabetes or high cholesterol, which can also play a role. Erectile dysfunction (ED) also starts to become more common in this decade, although it affects no more than 10% of males younger than 40. For many females, the 30s are actually when their sex drive peaks. Some research suggests this could be connected to the two biological clock and reproductive priorities, as fertility starts declining by age 30 and accelerates by the mid-ITS to 2S. However, just like in the 20s, it's also normal to experience a decrease in libido in your 30s. Hormonal birth control can still be a factor, plus dealing with pregnancy, childbirth, and adjusting to life with young children can understandably make new parents less interested in sex. If you have concerns about reduced sex drive, it's always a good idea to talk to your healthcare provider. The 40s bring about physical changes for both males and females that can impact sexual behavior. For males, erectile dysfunction or ED becomes much more prevalent, while less than 10% of males younger than 40 experience it. That number jumps to 30% or more for males aged 40 and older. Erections may become less rigid, and males might find themselves desiring sex less often. The refractory period, that's the time after orgasm, When a person isn't sexually responsive, also tends to get longer for males. For females, the 40s are typically when perimenopause begins. This is the lead up to menopause, and it means estrogen levels, which are important female hormones, start to decline. Lower estrogen can lead to vaginal dryness, making intercourse painful. Testosterone levels also tend to decline in females during this time. All of these hormonal shifts can contribute to a lower sex drive. In their 50s, both males and females often report declines in their sexual interest and in how often they have sex. Many of the changes are physical, such as ED in males, but other health and lifestyle factors really come into play here. For males, issues like high blood pressure, obesity, cancer and its treatments, tobacco use, and prostate health can affect sex drive and performance. For females, high blood pressure can lead to vaginal dryness, decreased sexual desire. They may also experience reduced lubrication or fewer orgasms, simply due to age and menopause. Testosterone levels in females will drop to their lowest point after menopause. Medications are also a significant factor in the 50s. Many people are taking medications for their conditions like high blood pressure, such as mesoprolol or thiazide diuretics, which can contribute to ED in males. Selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, or SSRIs, used to treat depression, can also impact sex drive in both males and females. On the other hand, some drugs, like bremelanotide, may be used specifically to boost libido in females. Despite these potential challenges, some research suggests that sexual desire, activity, and function can remain strong in your 50s. Studies even indicate that your sexual satisfaction isn't necessarily related to your age, but rather correlates more with your overall health and relationship status. After age 60, factors like sexual dysfunction, chronic illness, and the death of a partner become more common, and they can all contribute to a continued decline in sexual drive and activity. However, and this is really important, this absolutely does not mean you should expect to stop having sex as you get older. Research actually suggests that many people in their 60s and beyond report active, fulfilling sex lives. A Dutch study from 2017 found that nearly half of older people living with partners reported sexual activity in the past 6 months. Rates were much lower for those without partners. For men with partners, it was 49.5%. For women with partners, 40.4%. For those without partners, the rates were significantly lower, 13.7% for men and just 1.3% for women. Another study reported that up to 40% of women over 60 had low sex drive. Yet these women still said sex was an important part of their lives. A 2020 study pointed to several factors contributing to declining libido in females after time 60, including ED in partners and menopause-related vaginal changes, but also fatigue, pain, stress, and body image concerns. The good news is that while some consequences of aging are unavoidable, many of them can be managed medically. So is there a specific age when sexual activity ends? The answer is simply no. There isn't a set age. Many people can continue being sexually active for as long as they wish. Both males and females report sexual activity into their 70s, 80s, and even their 90s. Now, age-related changes like erectile dysfunction do mean that sexual encounters might feel different than they did in younger years. Older adults often find they prefer adaptive styles of sex that go beyond penetration. While sex can remain important later in life, people might face more health challenges, mobility issues, and physical barriers. For instance, a study found that older people with sensory changes were less likely to be sexually active. Although for those who were active, sensory changes didn't seem to affect the frequency or type of sex. Couples dealing with Alzheimer's or other dementia disorders might also face new challenges with sexual expression. Still, over 40% of people aged 80 to 91 who have partners reported they are still sexually active. Although the rate does decrease with cognitive decline with people living longer, it's also becoming more common for older individuals to use dating apps or websites to find new partners after divorce. The death of a spouse. If you are starting sex with new partners, it's a very good reason to talk to your healthcare provider about sexually transmitted infections which you might not have thought about recently. Diet. Focusing on an overall healthy eating plan, like the Mediterranean diet, is the best approach. There's evidence this can benefit men with ED and women whose sex lives are affected by weight. Some foods are reputed to potentially increase sex drive, often by improving blood circulation or increasing energy. Good circulation is important for erections and female arousal. Others might affect mood or libido. By changing brain chemistry, foods sometimes suggested include raw oysters, avocados, strawberries, blueberries, watermelon, sweet potatoes, spinach, garlic, onions, shallots, and leeks. On the flip side, some foods might potentially lower sex drive or function. These include alcohol, saturated fats like from fatty beef, pork, butter, or cheese, mint and menthol, and licorice root. Interestingly, despite some claims, recent research suggests soy and soy-based foods probably do not impact hormones or libido. Avoiding saturated fat has the added benefit of improving overall health, and changes in body weight or shape can boost sexual desire. Weight loss can also improve male fertility. Always discuss significant dietary changes with your healthcare provider. Manage stress. Chronic stress is a real libido killer. It increases cortisol, a hormone that can suppress sex hormones and lower sex drive. Stress also negatively impacts mood and mental state, making it harder to even get in the mood. Finding ways to lower stress levels can make a big difference. This could involve eliminating stresses where possible, learning relaxation techniques, exercising. We already talked about that. Meditating, using mindfulness, or practicing yoga, tai chi, or qigong. When chronic stress eases, your hormone levels should have a better chance of returning to normal. If you're struggling with stress, your healthcare provider can offer help. If you've noticed a change in your sex drive and it's bothering you, remember that you don't necessarily have to just live with a lower libido. There are several things you can do. First and foremost, talk to your healthcare provider. They can help figure out if the change is just a natural part of aging, or if it's related to a diagnosable sexual dysfunction, an underlying health condition, or a medication you're taking. Depending on what they find, they might suggest medication or other treatments. If it seems to be primarily an age-related shift or simply lower than you'd like, lifestyle changes can often be helpful. Let's look at a few areas. Exercise and physical fitness. This is a big one. Your activity levels, weight, and overall fitness are closely related to your libido. The good news is that even small increases in physical activity can potentially boost sex drive. Studies link obesity and inactivity with sexual dysfunction for males. Higher body fat percentage has been directly linked to sexual behavior. Males with a higher BMI, a common measure for healthy weight, were 30% more likely to have ED, and about 40% had problems with desire, while 50% had performance issues. For females with obesity, about 40% reported lower libido and heart health, and cardiovascular fitness were predictors of arousal. Exercise can help by increasing energy and stamina, helping with weight loss, boosting heart health, improving mood and mental health, helping manage chronic conditions like diabetes, and lessening chronic pain, all of which can positively impact your sex life. However, be aware that too much intense endurance exercise might potentially decrease male sex drive, according to some research. Improve sleep quality. There's research linking poor sleep with low sex drive. Improving your sleep quality can definitely help. Start by looking at your sleep hygiene, your habits around bedtime. Aim for a relaxing routine, avoid caffeine and alcohol before bed, and limit screens and bright light. Use your bed just for sleep and sex. Make your bedroom quiet, dark, and cool. Try to keep a consistent sleep schedule even on weekends. Aim for 7 to 9 hours a night. Only go to bed when you're tired. If you're still awake after 20 minutes, get up and do a quiet activity without much light or electronics until you feel sleepy. Better sleep benefits many areas of health, not just libido. If these steps don't help, ask your doctor if you might have a sleep disorder. Getting that diagnosed and treated can significantly improve your sleep and potentially your sex drive. Reconnect with your partner. Research supports what many already know. Feeling emotionally connected to your partner increases desire and arousal. This is often particularly true for women. Relationship experts suggest things like turning off devices and talking more truly, listening when your partner shares a problem, touching affectionately more often, paying attention when your partner seeks your attention, and understanding each other's love languages. If mismatched libidos are an issue, try to identify what sparks interest in the partner with lower desire. Increase those activities while finding alternative ways to satisfy the partner with higher desire. Focusing on stress management, exercise, and nutrition can also help increase a lower libido. and finding ways to connect emotionally can really boost desire. If you're having significant difficulty, consider couples counseling. Just a quick note, based on the information available, research suggests that for transgender individuals, hormone therapy and reassignment surgery can initially lower sex drive, but this often appears to be a short-term change. Some studies have found that trans women may actually end up with a higher sex drive over time than before treatment, while trans men often return to their previous levels of desire. So to wrap things up, it's clear that sex drive is a dynamic part of life that naturally changes as we age. There are typical peaks for males and females, but there's no single normal amount of desire, and age is absolutely not an endpoint for sexual activity. Many factors from hormones and health conditions to medications and relationships can influence libido at different stages. The good news is that if you're concerned about a change in your sex drive, there are things you can do. Focusing on your overall physical and mental health is key. This includes managing chronic conditions that might affect libido, reducing stress, boosting those feel-good endorphins with exercise, eating a healthy diet, and getting enough sleep. Reconnecting emotionally with your partner can also make a big difference. And remember, the most important step. If you have any concerns or questions about your sex drive or sexual health, is to talk to your healthcare provider. They are the best resource to help you understand what's happening and to explore your options. Once again, this information is for educational purposes only, and not medical advice. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more health discussions. Leave a comment below if you have any thoughts or questions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.